wave comes with bottlenecks. We have reduced range. To compensate for range, higher number of antennas will be required, which will drive up the overall cost. Now, the advantage of optical wireless communication technologies is that we can really think about wide spectrum, high data rates, low latency, higher securities, lower cost, lower energy consumption. Now, when we compare optical communication with traditional RF communication, we cover the entire wave band from ultraviolet to near infrared. And it's an ideal short distance, high speed wireless access with an effective complementary advantage to RF. Compare it to millimeter wave communication, where the usable bandwidth is really from 7 to 9 gigahertz. Optical wireless communication gives us that flexibility. However, it's limited by line of sight, which means that it opens up areas of research where we need to figure out how to improve these technologies. Now, the reason that's particularly relevant in the Indian context is twofold. One is the scale of this country, right? Are we really going to be able to sustain fiber rollouts for last mile connectivity in every remote corner of India? Are we going to be able to roll out fiber in the far-reaching areas of Ladakh and the Northeast? Or do we need to look for sustainable, cheaper solutions to provide last mile connectivity in those regions? Now, spectral efficiency of our current wireless technologies is an inherent characteristic which cannot be improved, it can only be optimized. And the extent of that depends on proper planning and utilization of that infrastructure. Additional spectrum is also very expensive. Using free space optical communication, we're using an unlicensed light spectrum to transmit data wirelessly instead of further putting pressure on that congested radio spectrum. Early experiments have shown potential for multi-gigabit connectivity using this part of the spectrum. We're looking at outcomes which include faster data rates, larger capacities, and higher reliability. There is no doubt about the growth of the market. There is no doubt about the fact that this is an investment that is required. Whether it's small cell backhauling or enterprise broadband and FTTX. But I believe that the world today stands at a threshold of a paradigm shift where the RF spectrum is congested. Millimeter wave may or may not be the solution to that. So we need to create a combination of technologies. We're currently working on, for example, looking at how we can take the current COTS optical technologies in the normal visible spectrum. What is the maximum range and connectivity we can get out of that? Can we marry it with next generation millimeter wave technologies and see if we can get better redundancy? And third, can we start looking at materials innovations so that we can take conventional CMOS sensors and we can add materials on top to extend them to the SWR bandwidth. So can we really jump from conventional silicon with low-cost material hybridizations to the O-band to get better ranges in this connectivity? Now, from India, this is one of the perspectives that is really important as we look at the border with China, as we look at the requirement for military to have connectivity in those areas, as we look at the need to add more and more encryption for secure communication in those areas. So it's not a trivial problem for India, and it's something that we need to pool resources to really be able to work on. An example of this is that we're starting to work with different organizations in the US as well as in Europe to look at what those novel materials are which can make SWR sensors out of COT sensors, out of our COT silicon devices. Can we bring those into commercial processes in the fab? How do we take those to market? Who are the end customers we need from the telecom industry to help us define the standards of something like this? Because ultimately it's going to require standards. Can we start looking at small scale pilots in the far-reaching corners of the country? The second area, and this is a lot of time and energy in Silicon Valley is getting poured into this, and I'm waiting to see sort of that same kind of interest coming in from the Indian side, is about on-chip optical signal processing. So digital processing of information really requires nonlinear devices and circuits for logical function and storage, and also interconnects to carry that information from one place to another. These interconnects are required within microchips and between microchips. The ever-decreasing feature size actually allows higher and faster integration at lower costs. However, interconnect scaling is happening at a much lower pace. The processing capacity of the processing logic really needs to increase to cater to new applications like machine learning and AI. More than the device itself, which is where a lot of energy is getting poured in, the electrical interconnections between the chips are starting to become determinants of performance. There is a lot of R&D going on in the West to see how, moving forward, the more than logic circuits, interconnects within the chips will have the same effect to determine performance. In fact, even majority of the consumption of energy inside a processing system is in the interconnects, not in the digital logic. The energy per bit to communicate off chip is just increasingly large. The existence of this interconnect scaling problem has been highlighted because of roadmaps created by the Semiconductor Industry Association. So there are two ways in which interconnects really affect the system. They limit the bandwidth for data transmission, and they increase the energy required to process a bit of information. Now, most energy dissipation is in information processing, in charging and discharging via capacitance. This is also because of the multiplexing required in data transmission. Now, in literature, there are many ways in which interconnect scaling is being addressed or is being theoretically addressed. There are architectures and design layouts to have minimal interconnections. Signaling on wires are significantly improved using a variety of techniques such as equalization. But all of these approaches have a limitation on bandwidth and in the energy spent processing each bit. More recently, we're seeing advances being made by changing the physical means of these interconnects using optical interconnections. Optical interconnects are believed to have the ability to address most of these problems. To save energy in the physical process of communication, we should stop wasting energy charging and discharging the electrical lines. Now, the motivation behind our work in particular is to use optical connection and free space optics for parallel processing to bring the energy per bit down for off-chip interconnects. Time multiplexing is not the solution for low energy. Highly parallel free space systems, in our opinion, are the future of interconnects for high bandwidth and low energy per bit. Our idea is to develop an efficient method to develop the optical interconnections between two microchips. So what we're working on is the design of optical pads on the transmission chips and spatial array detectors on the receiving chips. The optical pads become the low energy modulators to transmit the optical data at a much higher frequency without the requirement of a serializer or deserializer. The omission of the serializer-deserializer combination will allow handling of data much less number of times, thereby reducing time multiplexing and lowering the energy consumed per bit. The receiver is an array of photodiodes arranged in a spatial manner. The architecture we're trying to work on uses a fundamental quantum mechanical advantage of optics, which is called quantum impedance conversion. It implies charging up the photodetector instead of the wire. Photodetectors have much lower integrating capacitors and therefore require less energy to be charged. The spatial array of detectors on the receiving chip captures the spatially transmitted data, increasing the data transmission rate. And the objective of our research is that in the next year, we should be able to develop a functional data interconnection system between these chips and scale it up. The idea is to get to high parallelism in data transmission while consuming as low energy as is possible. The reason this becomes exceedingly interesting is with the explosion of generative AI. As model complexity is growing exponentially, traditional interconnects end up creating the bottleneck for data. As a result, GPUs, which are really the most expensive part of the generative AI value chain. I mean, I've heard absolutely ridiculous numbers as to $100 million being raised, only to spend 80 million of that on GPUs. And this ends up being, in each individual GPU ends up being idle for longer periods of time. That's just how the scaling issue is happening. What we're hoping to see is that using optical interconnects can help us achieve that scale, which is really needed to power generative AI in a more eco-friendly manner, in a more cost-effective manner. The third area that we're, again, we're doing a lot of work on is in optical encryption, using quantum key distribution for data protection. It is undoubtedly an exceedingly important area of research to protect optical communication, to secure data in transit and within a data center. There is a very, very wide need for optical encryption. The market includes all of the solution used, all of the area spaces in which optical communication is used, securing data in transit through encryption, both within the data center and within the optical transport network, across industries, from banking, from financial services, from insurance, government, healthcare, data centers, cloud service providers, energy, utilities, all of which spend billions of dollars on cybersecurity and rely on absolutely secure communications in order to operate. Now, what do we need in a solution for these industries? We need to have encryption built in a way that does not require replacement of existing infrastructure. We need to be able to provide countermeasures to post-quantum decryption capabilities. And we need to have short development times. So, it's widely accepted that quantum computing poses a significant risk to the current encryption systems because it could potentially decrypt in a fraction of time the codes that classical computers would take thousands of years to crack, thereby threatening the security of all digitally stored data. Single photon transmitters and detectors play a pivotal role in quantum key distribution. The fundamental idea is that a QKD is that any attempt to observe or measure a quantum system will disturb the system, which can be detected by the parties involved. Now, existing products that provide QKD functionality are very limited. We are just scratching the surface of capability again. The limitations come from bandwidth and from cost, making them applicable to only a fraction of the potential market. Solving for both of these limitations means unlocking value in a huge segment of industry. Critical information services are seeking protection against what we now see as a looming risk of store now, decrypt later, which is government data, political data, and data in sensitive financial institutions. Solutions on the market, as I mentioned, are based on very expensive equipment and have different generation methods that cannot be used on a large scale for mass production. Given that the best photon generator in the world is only up to 2.5 gigahertz, we need to have solutions that are 10x to 100x faster. To be able to integrate it into currently deployed commercial optical communication products, we also need to be able to synchronize with data streams and come up with cost-effective solutions, which can become an easy plug-and-play standard. All of these issues, speed, size, price, are not supported by the prototypes that are available in the market today. As a result, anybody who's able to unlock this has immense financial value as well as an immense opportunity to provide a much-needed solution to this industry. What we're trying to work on is the combination of a single photon transmitter and a single photon avalanche diode detector. Now, these are indispensable for the advancement of quantum computing, cryptography, biomedical imaging, astrophysics, telecommunications, and environmental monitoring because of their ability to process and detect quantum information with absolute precision and sensitivity. In addition, single photon transmission and detection operating in tandem require both subsystem elements to be co-developed. So they are not just barely compatible, but they have to be able to operate optimally. Now, this is where we need the model that Mr. Mohan Kumar was talking about, an institution in which various experts bring their expertise to the table, so we are able to develop both sides of the solution together at the same time to ensure compatibility. What we're trying to work on here is the first-of-the-kind system to demonstrate QKD eavesdropping detection, which can operate within any optical communication at required data rates and distances. What we're hoping is that this solution, once developed, can be integrated into every pluggable transceiver in a manner that will not disrupt the integrity of the data communication link. Now, the advantages of working on something like this is that it provides a security layer that has absolute protection from eavesdropping to data in transit, operates independent of any encryption layer so that it can be used together or without one, supports extremely high speeds of data transmission, makes use of existing communication infrastructures, and costs a fraction of the price so that it can be widespread. We see this research as a pathway to create a breakthrough solution that enables first-of-its-kind protection for optical communication. Now, these are just a couple of areas of work that we are actively pursuing. Some of the other areas of emerging activity for us, or of interest for us, also comes from a lot of inspiration from the US. A very interesting recent breakthrough came in timekeeping. Now, traditionally, optical clocks have faced a problem with dead time, which is a period where signal cannot be taken. This is important because the stability of signal degrades with time. This effectively makes optical clocks much less accurate than atomic clocks. But recent advances using optical lasers instead of masers have yielded incredible results. Recently reported research from the US shows a silicon cavity and a diode laser, which were used together to create a device with an error of just 48 picoseconds over 34 days of operations, which makes it more reliable than current cesium time standards. It's a breakthrough. Look at the applications of this on things like GPS, in addition to other scientific endeavors. The second area, which is of sort of future interest to us and leads to a lot of work that we have done in the past, is looking at GPS-denied navigation. Now, taking inspiration from some of Dr. Mukul Sarkar's early work in his career, he developed a concept of a biologically inspired CMOS sensor. Now, if you look at nature, the two kinds of optical vision systems found in nature are the single aperture human eye and the compound eye of an insect. The insects' compound eyes are fascinating because they are of some of the smallest and most complex vision sensors. The eye is a compound of individual lenses, each with their own photoreceptor array. The visual system allows them to move around with limited intelligence and processing power. What that means is it allows them to sense the location and position of themselves relative to their nest with almost zero processing capability. Now look at that if we extrapolate that idea to small UAVs, small drones, or even larger systems, which need to operate in a GPS-denied environment and find their way back. Take the example of an ant or a honeybee that is foraging. It goes in all sorts of crisscross pathways, but it will always find its way back to the nest in an absolutely straight line. That's because their sensors, their eyes, have the ability to detect the phase of light, telling them the precise pathway back to their nest. Mukul was able to build a sensor to sense polarization information in a very similar fashion. And we believe that it is the key, effectively, to autonomous navigation for agents in GPS-denied environments. We're also seeing, for example, in the US, recent development of photonics chips, which could replace gyroscopes. Gyroscopes are extremely important, again, in GPS-denied environments for understanding or for measuring inertial navigation. This has been done by this recent research using quantum technique called weak value amplification. And it really may be the answer to improving the accuracy of what we currently utilize in inertial navigation system, where performance deficits really add up over time. One of the things that I'd like to add in my closing remarks is we really need to find a way to create a more intuitive and easy academia, industry, deep tech, small business collaboration. That's one of the learnings that we can really take away from both the US and Europe, which have excelled in this. In our own small way, what we do is we allow a lot of the members of our team to spend part-time pursuing higher education. What that means is it keeps their minds open to research. If they qualify for a part-time master's degree or a part-time PhD at IIT Delhi, which is where we're currently hosted, They are given 30% of their time to focus on R&D. The reason that becomes really important is it's core to our mission. It's core to what value system we as a company operate from, which is research first, IP first, international standards first. I believe that this is a really important era of collaboration between India and the United States, and we have much to learn from each other. There is a level of thriftiness amongst Indian researchers, which I don't think that the US has ever seen before. And I think exposure to that might be of a lot of value to the US ecosystem. And there is an institutional camaraderie between industry and academia in the US. As Mr. Mohan Kumar was showing, how industry comes and funds a lot of these development ideas from scratch. And as a partner in where these technologies develop into and where they finally go in end systems. With that, I'm done with my talk. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
Well, any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, please.
Thank you.
I just want you to elaborate on the word thriftiness among Indian researchers.
I'll give you an example. If anywhere in Silicon Valley we had to start a semiconductor company, they wouldn't even talk less than $100 million raise. DLI has 7 or 8 now semiconductor companies. I can assure you none of them have raised more than $1 million or $2 million. What that shows is there is a certain amount of inherent tenacity. We call it jugaad in this country, right? Where we're able to do things very fast. We're able to come up with cost-effective answers. And I'll give you another example. The Chandrayaan mission is a superb, very exemplary answer to that. And I think one of the most amazing features about that was that India was able to land on the south side of the moon in a net cost of $75 million. Sure, if we had invested more in certain fundamental technologies over the year, that cost would have gone up by maybe double or triple, but that's it. Right? As we compare that to numbers from the West, we see that it's a fraction of cost. And I think that's something that India has a very compelling story to tell the world.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, any other question?
Varunda, nice talk.
Thank you.
We are from academia and we have a lot of student projects. So can you support these projects?
We'd be very happy to. So we have only one rule when we are thinking about supporting projects. So we, for example, right now are bringing on board about 30 interns, right, from different colleges in and around Delhi. We are planning to expand to our next office somewhere in Gujarat, and we want to be able to create that ecosystem with the local universities there as well. Our only ask when we're supporting projects is that we need students to come and work with our team. We need that cross-exchange of knowledge to happen. We realize that people learn faster on the job. So we're very happy to support.
So that is one part. Second part, let's suppose we want to organize some hackathons. So hackathon is the best platform that will create one POC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So can you support these hackathons? Let's suppose first prize 50,000 rupees.
Yeah, of course. We'd be most happy to.
Okay, we will contact you.
Definitely, please do.
Any other question?
Good afternoon. Is this working?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Hello. First of all, excellent talk
Thank you, sir.
and very precise. Though presently I am an entrepreneurial researcher also, but otherwise I am from Air Force, Air Force. My interest came from your basic area of work, that is on the UAVs and such developments. My concern, or rather my interest, is to know where are you getting them manufactured? Are you reached that stage of manufacturing them? And secondly, in the present scenario of a lot of hacking or other things, what kind of a security are you contemplating or have you already planned for, so that the consequences of a hacked UAV are duly taken care of?
So we just fabricated our first chip at TSMC. We have 6 fabrications that are going to happen from now till the end of the next year. So we're really moving very fast on not just talking and coming up with ideas, but also now getting devices back, testing them and putting them into the environment. And a lot of our customers are military customers. So security is something that we get a question about very often. The automotive industry is probably the best example of the security standards that need to be applied from the time of the sensor design all the way up to the fabrication. So for example, the auto industry from a security perspective demands that we fabricate only at secure fabs, right? Similarly, from the time of design, certain cybersecurity elements have to be added into the design from the ground up. And that's a process in itself. One of the advantages that we have, at least when we are dealing with the Indian customers, right, is that for the first time, a lot of these chips are being designed by us. So we're very acutely aware of the advantages, but also of the vulnerabilities, and we know that we need to take care of them. We're not blind anymore, is what I'm trying to say.
Any other questions?
That's very good to know, but tell me, at what stage are you? Are you also involved in the designing or innovation about the aerodynamical part of it also? Or basically, these are all the navigational chips and other related chips that you're designing?
So it's very interesting that you asked that. Recently at Semicon India, Mr. Anirudh, who is the CEO of Cadence, said that he's seeing a rising trend in industry of companies being chips to system companies. Now, the previous decade had seen chips companies and systems companies really being separate to each other. When we started the company, we said we had a very strong ethos that we think this is a wrong practice and we wanted to really correct it. So for aerodynamics, we have mechanical engineers, right, on our team who are working on making sure that the designs are aerodynamically efficient. But we also were pairing them with the electronics designers and the chip designers. So we have the complete continuum in-house.
Thank you very much. I do have some more questions, but probably I'll take them offline.
Thank you very much, Madam. It was an excellent talk.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know something around quantum sensors. Like you have mentioned some work on that. So, do you have some support for the development of the quantum sensors in our case? Like
We do, so we can have that conversation again offline.
yeah, that will be great. Actually,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, before we proceed any further, I believe there should be a huge applause for this excellent, interesting, informative session. And especially the way you used all those wonderful examples. Thank you very much. Now, may I request S.K. Marwa, sir, kindly be on stage in order to felicitate and express our gratitude to Vrinda ma'am. Thank you. So this is a token of gratitude. Please come forward. And this was somewhere a similar topic, so I request, this was a one session only. So Mohan sir, please come. Let's have a group picture. Marwa sir, please, let's have a group picture together. And afterwards, we will proceed for 15 minutes tea break. Before we proceed for the next session, that would be cyber security. And also just a reminder, at 5:30, we will have the breakdown sessions. Sunita ma'am, please join us. So we will have our tea break, ladies and gentlemen, for 15 minutes only. So you can proceed further for the tea break. All right, and before we proceed any further, I request Mohan sir, please educate us about the upcoming sessions. The 5 sessions, I think you are the very right person to educate us. The next 5 topics we're going to have.
So I'm back here. This is about the group discussions. So we would like to have 5 parallel group discussions. We have identified 5 areas. Please, maybe this is a good time. How many of you are interested in semiconductor research? Raise your hands.
Please raise your hand, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I see about 10, 15. Okay. Communications.
Next generation communications, please raise your hand.
That's a good number too. Intelligent transport systems. Wow.
Lovely.
Dr. Kapoor, Vrinda Kapoor, I think you should stay back. There is a lot of interest in these areas and get involved in the group discussions. What is the other 2 areas?
Cyber security.
Cyber security, of course, there will be plenty. Good, good. And then green technologies, green and sustainable technologies. Okay, so I think we have more or less, may not be exactly equal, at least 10 members in each group. Some groups may be higher. And if you are interested in multiple areas, you can always exchange. If you have come from a particular university or organization, there are 2 of you. One of you can go to semiconductors, the other can go to intelligent transport systems, so that you can exchange your ideas, what you learned from the other group later on. So we would like to have this brainstorming session between 5:30 to 7 today. And we don't want this workshop to be entirely presentations and talks. So this is an opportunity for you to get together to talk about 2 important things. Number 1, what are the research challenges? What are the grand challenges in your area of interest? Okay, you discuss those. And then the second important point is this is about collaboration between researchers in India and the US. What are the challenges that you are facing in terms of establishing these collaborations? We would like to learn from you the problems that you are having so that we can try to address that in the future. So these are the 2 important things that we want to know from you. And in addition to that, it is a free forum. You can talk about other things that you have to talk about either in the area or about the collaboration research. Okay, and for each session, we have identified 2 group leaders, right? And do we have the list of all the group leaders here?
No, not yet.
I think for the semiconductor materials, it is Ramana and Dhruv. Dhruv is here. Dhruv Sheshadri. And for the communications, we have Kiran Kochi and who is the other person? Sajal Das. Communications, you are the group leader, right? Yeah. You are the right person to do that. Are you okay with that? Yeah. You want to be in cybersecurity? Okay. And Nirmalya Roy and there's Satish on the. For cybersecurity, we have Nidhi Rastogi and Tarun Pandey, right? Yeah, but you can participate in that too. Did we miss any areas?
Green and sustainable technologies.
Green and sustainable technologies. Do we have any volunteers here? Satish, there's only one Satish. Oh, Ratish, okay, sorry. Ratish and somebody else? Yeah, please join Ratish to lead that group and you can volunteer. Basically, by leading the group, you are starting the conversations. And also you are taking some notes, and as I said, we want to see 3 grand challenge problems in your area of interest and challenges that you have in collaborating with researchers in the US. And similarly for US researchers, the challenges that you have in collaborating with the Indian researchers. So we want to identify those not only from a research point of view, also from the partnership and collaboration point of view. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so you are, sorry, I forgot, you are in green and sustainable. Okay, so we have all the groups. So at 5:30, we will break out into these parallel groups, and then you are by yourself and have the conversations. This is an opportunity for everybody to talk and express their views and opinions. All right?
Thank you very much, sir, for explaining. Thank you very much.
I did not mention one more thing. So the 5:30 to 7 is the 5:30 to 7 is the formal group discussion time that we have allocated. But in addition to that, you have plenty of time between 7 p.m. today and 4 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, leave aside some 8 hours of your sleep or whatever. But you can continue the conversation during dinner tonight. You can continue the conversation during breaks tomorrow. And at the end of the day on tomorrow, that is around 5 p.m., I think, we would like the group leaders to come up, and you don't have to prepare slides or anything. Just tell what are the 3 research challenges that you have in your area of interest, and what are the challenges that you have in the collaborations. At least that we would like to know by tomorrow, so that we can take notes and the MEITY agency and NSF can look into those suggestions that you come up with. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for all the information. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we can have a tea break for 15 minutes, and afterwards we will proceed for the session 3, that would be cyber security. I believe the most awaited session of the day. So please be back on time and enjoy the tea break. Thank you.